Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those who don't identify as either, you are listening to Ratchet and Respectable. Heads up, today's not going to be a good day. We have hard topics today. On a previous episode, I shared with you a conversation that I had with my dad where he wanted to discuss his will, his estates. So many of you reached out, went to the website, sent me very, very, very long emails with your personal stories. Thank you, thank you, thank you for trusting me with your stories and for being vulnerable with me. I really appreciate it. And for people who checked on me, because a lot of y'all did that too. I'm fine, but thank you for checking on me. But since that conversation, I did speak to a lawyer, Dorna Taylor Jenkins. She deals with wills, estates, trust, all of that. And I was holding the interview because it's such a hard topic. I wanted to put some space between those conversations. But earlier today, I saw that Flo Anthony, journalist, legend Flo Anthony, had passed away. I said I wasn't going to cry this episode. I don't know that I'd be able to do what I do in terms of like this podcast, in terms of being an entertainment journalist, which is how I started my career. I don't know that I would have been able to do that without Flo Anthony very specifically. She was a black first, the first black woman, actually black person, period, to work in the sports, entertainment, and page six department of the New York Post. And she was the first African American to pen a column in the National Examiner. And she wrote for the Daily News and New York Amsterdam News and a ton of other places. You would see her on Entertainment Tonight, Inside Edition, CNN, HLN, MSNBC. She was everywhere. Like every time I left the house, like when I was in my 20s and 30s, when I was like outside, like if it was a good and proper event, Flo Anthony would be there. Really nice lady, always in people's business, knew everything. I knew her as a gossip columnist, but not like the messy kind of gossip columnist. If your private business leaked into the public, Flo was going to call you and get a quote. Flo was going to tell you come talk to her and give you a place to tell your side of the story. A gossip columnist with a heart. I knew her professionally. We never worked together, but we were friends on social media, particularly Facebook. And I remember after I left New York, it was probably late 2017. I was still like a mess from everything that caused me to leave New York. I wrote something on Facebook and I was like, yeah, like my life is so boring. Like I don't go to parties or receptions or events. Like I haven't, put on anything other than, sweats to go to the gym. My social outings at the time was fine. Like going to Target. I spend most of the time in the house watching TV. I guess this is life at, I don't know, 38, 39. But Flo hit me on the side and was like, hey, this is not the life plan for you. Like I understand things didn't work out in New York. You on here talking like you an old sick woman. Put on some decent clothes and go see people and be social. Like, what are you doing? She's one of several people actually who reached out to me at a really hard time in my life to recharge the battery in my back. Because for a while it just seemed like the light had gone out. And I just couldn't figure out how to flip it back on. But I appreciate Flo for her contribution to journalism, but also just being a mentor to people who just hadn't lived long enough to understand that life is a series of ups and downs, and just because you're down doesn't mean you stay there, and that you can work your way back up. God's grace, some good support, and money. You need some money. So many journalists have been writing tributes to her all up and down my timeline. I think that's a testament because some folks die and folks come out the woodwork to talk about how they wasn't shit. That's not the case here. She's a good lady. My heart goes out to her family and friends, and colleagues, and the many, many, many people who loved her. This is a huge loss. Oh, rest in peace, Flo. Thank you for the doors you opened, and most important for holding them open. You did good work while you were here. May you rest in peace. You deserve it. My friend's boyfriend passed away recently. I mean, like within like the last 2 weeks. And he was a young man in his 40s, beautiful spirit. I'd met him when we were all still living in LA. Devon is his name. So fast forward maybe 2 or 3 years, they were coming to South Africa. Another friend of theirs was having a 40th birthday. So, could they see me while they were in Cape Town? And I was like, of course. So they came over and I finally got a chance to like really get to know him. And I was like, oh, this is my friend's husband. You just kind of feel it sometimes when people are with their forever person. And I was like, as long as everybody acts like they have good sense, they'll be together forever. Like they were very two peas in a pod. And my friend was absolutely ecstatic to be with him. Like he genuinely made her happy. And it went both ways. Like he was really, really, really into her too. And I was happy that she had found a good person to make her person, you know? I spent the day with them celebrating with their friend. It was a large group of people for that 40th birthday. And I remember on the Uber ride home, I was like, maybe I should be nice to somebody's son someday. It would be nice to have that kind of love story. My friend sent me a text, and it was a invite to an event in LA. She knew I couldn't be there. And I was so confused because I was like, yo, people got to stop doing this. They keep making these flyers. They put like white birds, doves, and then like the sky with the sunlight peeking through it. Like it looks like somebody died. I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, it's like an engagement announcement. They've been together 4 years. And then I read it and was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And that's how I learned that he passed away. It took me a minute to process. And I was like, what do you mean he died? Like he's like 40 something. So I finally get in contact with my friend. He didn't have a will. The aftermath has been about what you could expect for someone who has no will. The next of kin is technically his parents. It made me move forward this conversation that I had with attorney Dorna Jenkins Taylor. One of the things that she and I spoke about, wills, estates, yes, but also the concept of legacy and how you want to be remembered. And part of that is that your death doesn't cause chaos and confusion amongst your loved ones. So I've been thinking a lot about legacy. I want to introduce you to Dorna Jenkins Taylor. She is a practicing attorney for over 26 years. But more important is I put out a call on Facebook. If anybody's worked on, wills, estates, blah, blah, blah. Can you recommend somebody for me to talk to for an episode of Ratchet and Respectable? But she comes highly recommended. One of the reasons I gravitated toward her is she's also a widow. She has personal experience dealing with wills and estates. And because the interview was already done, I can tell you she's lovely, super informative, and she made a topic that I have been dreading. By the end of the interview and some of the stories that she shared, I'm excited actually about doing my will, taking care of my estate, and also setting up a trust. So we had a conversation not just about how to talk to elders, like parents, but how to handle like your own personal ish, anything that you value. If you wanted to go to someone specific, or perhaps equally important, you want to make sure so and so never gets their hands on it, then you need a will. So let's welcome Dorna Jenkins Taylor to Ratchet and Respectable.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I asked to have this conversation, but just talking about this makes me so very uncomfortable.
It feels like we're planning for our death, but really, we're planning for our life and for our legacy. So if we reframe it, that helps. And by the time we finish this, you'll go, how was that fun?
You're promising fun, and I'm going to try to keep it light, but this is such a hard conversation. The reason I wanted to have it, when I reached out to you, there were two different stories that I was thinking about. I was thinking about the estate of Chadwick Boseman. His family is suing his widow. He died without a will, so they've got some confusion going on. And then also the estate of Malcolm Jamal Warner is in flux. And then when I reached out to you, you were like, yeah, and
Offset died without a will, and his parents are his heirs. So his father, who apparently has been a deadbeat and hasn't been in his life, is entitled to 50% of his estate. Guess what? He's probably going to get it.
because he's the biological parent.
You die in most states without a spouse, without children, your parents are your heirs. If your parents have died, your siblings are your heirs. So having that will in place is what protects you from that, because you can leave a roadmap. You can say, I want my cat to go to my mom. I want my shoes to go to my cousin, my handbags to my sister. You can say what you want and they have to follow it. But when you're silent, the law kicks in. Not only that, your family is in court fighting, so money is being eaten up.
No, I don't want the courts getting my money, but I also don't want people I don't want getting my money, having my money.
Feeling better about this already, aren't you?
I am. When I think about wills and trusts and legacies and all of these things, estate, I think about quote unquote old people. What age should people be having conversations?
When you have children, when you buy a property, a home,
Okay.
a business, anyone with anything that they don't want to go to somebody they don't like or know, or a judge deciding what's going to happen to their personal property. I'm talking about your artwork, your ink pens, all of your things. You need to have something in place.
I feel like you're saying that like everyone should have a will.
Yes, and honestly, it's cultural. You know, as African American families, we don't really either want to talk about this or know who to talk to or how to talk about this, or even people that have tried to go and do something about it. They'll meet with, you know, some old 90-year-old lawyer who says, "Oh, you don't have enough." I'm not from that mindset. I believe, and I know because I've experienced it with clients. If you have a house, you want to make sure people know how to pay that mortgage, assume that loan, keep that property, or sell it. You want to give somebody the right to sell it and get the money without having to be in court for 2 years. I've had this happen. Families have been waiting 9 and 10 months in some counties just to get a hearing, and nobody has the money to be able to pay the mortgage while they wait because nobody has access to the bank account because her name is on it or just his name is on it and nobody has access. And you can't do anything. Everything's frozen until you get that order from the judge. But if you have a will that says, I'm leaving so-and-so as my executor, such and such is getting this and such is getting that. And even better, if you have a trust, then you avoid the probate process altogether. It never goes to court. You've left a roadmap and your family just follows it the day after you pass away if they want to. Another thing I want to let people know they should do, go to the bank and ask them for a POD on your account. That's payable upon death. A lot of times we think, oh, I'll put my adult children on my bank account. That gives them access to your money. They can walk in and withdraw everything and leave. What you want to do is have your name on the bank account and have them or someone as payable upon death. So they can walk in with a death certificate and that document is already on file with the bank, and then they can have access to the money. This is why we see people who we thought had money having GoFundMes for the funeral because nobody can get to their money without a court order. Isn't that embarrassing when there's a fish fry and you're like, I thought she was popping.
She might be, but we can't access that.
Access that.
How do we have these conversations with our loved one? I had to be trapped in a car with my father for a 4-hour road trip in order for me to actually sit down and listen.
I find that a lot of people bring their parents to talk to me or their grandparents to talk to me, or they talk to me and take the information back. What's really hard for people is to look at your loved one and have this conversation. But you can look at me. So bring a third party and bring a lawyer in. I'm happy to help folks. Just bring someone in who can just talk about it with less emotion. 9 times out of 10, your grandmother has already, your dad in your instance has already thought about it. They already know what they want. They just want to tell you. But they have to go a step further. They have to memorialize it in writing, 2 witnesses and a notary for it to be a will. I'm sure he had his affairs in order or he wouldn't have been trying to just tell you. Telling a family member is not going to stand up. A judge is not going to want to hear that.
It's good to have a lawyer, but if not the lawyer route, write it down, 2 witnesses and a notary, and it's official. Ish.
Yes, but.
Okay.
Yes, but. Well, like saying, can I clean my teeth? Probably, but I'm not a dentist. But you can create more problems than not, like Malcolm Jamal Warner's, trust. It was made in 1996. He got married, I guess, 2012, I think. That doesn't really serve his wife and child. So having legal advice to tell you what you need to do as your life adapts and changes is vital, or you can, again, be creating a mess because of what you just don't know. Better to have it in place and know that it's going to stand up, because you can create fights that weren't even going to be there. Like, the widow and the mother having that dispute. And honestly, his mother, and I haven't read any interviews with her. She hasn't really said a lot, but she can't give the wife and the child any money if it's in that trust from 1996, because it didn't talk about giving a wife and a child any money. She can only do what that trust says. And it doesn't say that because they didn't exist. So she literally cannot just give the lady $1 million without a court order. Now, having said that, I'm a widow. I lost my husband when I was 46. I was in charge of everything. But my mother-in-law, I believe that if she were somehow in charge of my husband's estate, she would help us, I believe, with the money that she received. So I'm not letting his mother off the hook. I'm just saying that may be a reason that she hasn't done anything, because she didn't have to.
How often should we be updating wills and trusts?
As things happen. So when you get married, if you weren't married when you created the trust or the will, when you have children. Now, when I write a will, I'll say, my children name, date of birth, and any other natural children that I have. I will define what adopted children mean, because with these blended families, and we can talk about that because that's a whole issue. Adopted children, my husband's children that aren't my children, my husband's children that he had under whatever circumstances, those aren't considered children in these documents by default. You can change that. You can leave out a child. You can do anything when you create your own document, when you create your document.
Let's go through some different scenarios. And let's start with me. So like I own my place, I have businesses, I have copyrights, I have trademarks, but I don't have kids and I don't have a husband. So in the case of me trying to figure out like who I leave it to, like what are some things that I need to consider in this circumstance?
Yeah, you want to consider nieces and nephews. I see that quite a bit. Your college, leave a scholarship in your name. A lot of times we'll see scholarships named after somebody we've never heard of. That's how that came about. So you want to think about two things. Who do I want to be in charge of my affairs? And what do I want to give people and how? Do I want everything to be sold and just divide the money? That's the easy way. Do I want people to be able to come over and pick things that they would like that are meaningful to them? That's a way I use a lot for clients as well. And just to give you a little more to stay up at night, if you are single and you have no children and you go into a hospital and you have a surgery, who is the person that they can talk to if you're under anesthesia and they find something and they want to do additional surgery? When I do a will or a trust, I do healthcare power of attorney, financial power of attorney, a living will, which is life support. Sometimes we call it a DNR. Do I want to be on life support? Do I want you to pull the plug? You need to make all these decisions now, because look at Wendy Williams. Wendy Williams apparently doesn't have a healthcare power of attorney or a financial power of attorney. So the judge was able to appoint someone to take over her bank account, appoint someone else to decide her medical care, put her away in a place and just lock her up. If she had had these things in place, saying my son Kevin, not him, but somebody who she chose, then she wouldn't be in this predicament. So not only is it just when you died, it's during your lifetime. If you have a medical emergency, who do you want the doctors to speak to? Now, when you go in for a surgery, they hand you a power of attorney and you just sign it. It's 5:30 in the morning. You couldn't eat anything last night. You have no idea what it says. It's better to go in with something that's been thoughtfully prepared. You understand very clearly who you've named and what decisions they're allowed to make, so that these choices aren't made for you. In Georgia, we had a young lady last year who was brain dead and was pregnant. Yes, they kept her on life support until she delivered that baby, and her family wanted her removed because she was suffering and the baby was not going to be healthy. She didn't have this power of attorney in place. The doctors did what they wanted to do. So this is so important when you are not married and there's an automatic husband there or wife there to be the next of kin, that you select this person now so that they can speak for you if you can't speak for yourself. And just thinking about your father, and I don't want to bring you down, but you don't want to have to make that choice. You want to carry out his wishes, because you'll have the peace that you carried out his wishes, as opposed to, did I make the right decision?
So I know you wrote a book specifically for single moms who are dealing with these issues. What sort of things should they be taking into consideration here?
Yes, I did. And thank you for mentioning that. I wrote a book called Estate Planning for Single Mothers, and I wrote one called Estate Planning for Single Fathers, too. And I'm writing many other for estate planning for whoever you might be. I'm just making my way through. Single mothers need to think about, okay, where's dad? Can he take care of this child? Will he take care of this child? And who's going to control the purse strings if he does? So there needs to be a thought about, do I need to terminate parental rights if he's missing, out of the picture, in prison, not a factor? As long as that man has signed that birth certificate, he's got those rights. Takeoff's dad, right? And if it's not a thing where he's going to come into some money himself and your child should inherit from them, you may want to consider termination of parental rights so that they can't show up and just take your child and the child doesn't even know them. You want to name a guardian, even if you don't terminate parental rights. You want to go ahead and what we call pre-need guardian, where you name your sister or your mother, and I'm going to come back to that, your mother or your father, or someone who the child knows and loves and trusts. So if something happens to you unexpectedly, that person can come sign them out of school, take them to the doctor, register them for school, do the things that you would do that they don't have any legal standing to do absent this guardianship paper. Single mothers want to think about what happens if they have a life insurance policy. Let's say at work, you've got $250,000 in life insurance, but your child is 8 and you've named them as the beneficiary. They won't receive that money until they're 18. So you need to name a person who's going to receive the funds on their behalf. But life insurance companies just write a check to whoever. So if they send a $250,000 check to Susie, your cousin, and Susie's, she's been a great friend to your child, but one day she's running behind on her car note and she's just going to borrow the money from that money and she's going to put it back, and this keeps happening, and now there's no money left. And I tell these types of stories in the book because I've experienced them with clients. If you have a trust, you can name the trust the beneficiary, not Susie. And Susie can be the trustee of the baby girl trust. She's going to hesitate to write a check to herself from the trust and put it in her personal bank account. She's going to probably do what you told her to do with the money. And as a single parent, what you want to do if your child is young, you don't want to dump $250,000 on somebody on their 18th birthday. They're going to go buy a Lambo and it's a wrap. You're not doing anything that makes any sense. So you want to say at 18, you get this much as a graduation gift. At 21, you get this much. For college, you get this much. If you're getting married, here's a wedding gift. If you're starting a business, here's angel investment funds. You want to build guardrails around the inheritance for your children. I like to do up to age 30. That's when that whole prefrontal cortex is really kind of kicked in and they're not going to, do anything really ridiculous. You don't want them to be in a situation where they're attracting the wrong kind of friends, Bobby Christina.
Yeah.
So these are the things that parents want to think about. Now, we plan on being here for all of these milestones, but if we're not, then there's a plan in place for your child.
Oh, there was something you said you were going to go back to. What did we skip over? The putting your mom in charge.
Yeah. That seems wonderful. She raised you. She loves them. But what if she's 81 and they're 4? So we want to think about, picking someone who's young and agile or our age that can, give our child a good quality of life. And maybe we make mom the trustee over the money so she can make sure Susie's not buying Louboutins with the inheritance. Just think about your family and the dynamics of how old are people? Are people healthy? Are people able to provide your children the active lifestyle that they're probably used to? And are they out of state? Does this mean you're moving your children across country or to another school who's local, who's able to, provide your children stability? Because that's really what you want for your kids if something were to happen.
Somebody had to be getting out better than the single people here. Is it easier for spouses?
If you don't have a will or a trust, it's not easier. It actually can be more complicated because if you pass away with a spouse and children, and let's say you own your house, and let's make you an imaginary spouse and imaginary children, you pass away, they now own your house 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
They might be adults, and they might want their inheritance now. And your spouse is like, this is my house, I live here.
Yeah.
Okay, you got to buy us out. Huh? Now he's got to refinance or sell or something to come up with half of the value of the home to give them their inheritance. This happens to people. And even worse is blended families where the husband, you and Mr. Johnny, y'all are 70 and you found love later, or a second husband, right? You and Mr. Johnny, you love each other so much. You've got 2 children that are 50 and you pass away. They own the house with him, or even worse, it's your house, but y'all lived in it as a couple. They're putting Mr. Johnny out. In a will or a trust, you can say, I give Mr. Johnny the right to live here for the rest of his natural life. It belongs to my children, but he has the unfettered right to reside here as long as he desires. And then they can take and sell it.
I decide, you know what, I'm going to get my affairs in order. What do I need to prepare to come to you?
So I do this virtually, and I have clients all over the country. And so you would show up in a Zoom with me, and we talk through like we've been talking through. I have a 3-page questionnaire. I'll tell you why it's only 3 pages. You give somebody 20 pages of financials and tell them to fill that out to start, they're not going to start. And also, I don't need to know what your bank account balance is today. You're not going to have that same balance when you die. So I just want to know your heart. Who do you want to leave the Louis Vuitton bag to? Who do you want to be in charge of your estate? You know the answers off the top of your head. Once I receive that, within 5 business days, I'll have a strategy together and a draft in my client portal for you to review. Once you review that, we send it to you with all the instructions on signing. You can arrange your own 2 witnesses, your own notary, because notaries are everywhere now. You don't have to go sit down in a lawyer's office to do that. You send back, if you're doing a trust, you send back the real estate deed so that I can finish off recording the house into the trust and making sure that gets done. And you're set. We get these done inside of 30 days most of the time.
I don't don't know why I thought this was like a very laborious, like, 90, 60 days.
And we take away the excuses. Oh, this is going to take forever. Oh, I've got to gather up all this paperwork. Oh, I don't know where the life insurance policy is. We can come back to that. You can tell me the, last four digits of your bank account, day 25, right? I don't need you to focus on that on the front end. So yeah, by doing this I'm 28 years in with practicing law. I've been doing this type of work for about 15 years. Another thing I like to have clients do is once they've finished it, write a letter to your loved ones. Tell them why you did what you did. We put it right in the nice leather-bound portfolio with everything else.
Does everyone need a trust? Because when I hear trust, I think like very rich people.
A trust is for anybody that doesn't think their family or want their family to go through probate or think their family can handle going down to the courthouse and properly completing the documents and getting everything done in a timely fashion. And that's just about everybody because the courts don't care what you have going on. They just take their sweet time sometimes. So that's a big myth, especially in our community. We think that trusts are for the Carnegies and the Rockefellers, and they are, but for us too. I always tell people, it's funny. They'll say, well, I don't have much. And I'll say, okay, how much is your house worth? $450,000. All right, tell me about your life insurance. I've got a $500,000 policy at work. I've got 2 CDs. You've just told me about $1 million estate.
Will and estate planning, I still end up in a probate?
Will, you still end up in probate.
The trust keeps you out of probate.
We take all of your property and we take it out of your name and we move it into the name of the trust while you're living. So it's own nothing, control everything. It's why you can see Rudy Giuliani get sued for $58 million and get a judgment, but still have a Mercedes and a Rolex. And because all of his assets are in his trust, they're not reachable in that way. They've been doing this a long time and we are catching up.
Is there anything that you think that I need to know or my listeners need to know that can help us?
Don't wait till grandma starts having memory loss. A lot of times we can't help you because you have to be of sound mind and body to do these documents, sound mind and body. So don't wait until you start seeing signs of dementia or Alzheimer's in a loved one. And the only other thing I really want to talk about is nursing home care. God forbid something happens to an elder in your family and you can't care for them at home and you need to put them in a nursing home for their safety. Maybe they have memory care issues and they're driving off and getting lost. You have to have placed their assets in a trust 5 years before they need the care if you want Medicaid to cover that. So this strategy has to be in place while they're healthy and able to, sign it and have it in place. This thing where people try to put their adult children on, just quick claim it to their adult children and think they're avoiding the Medicaid clawbacks is fraud. That's Medicaid fraud. They'll give them the bed. They're not inhumane. They'll give them the care. But when they pass away about a year later, you're going to get a notification that the government is seizing that property.
I'm a new homeowner, and it's my biggest fear is losing my house.
It's an irrevocable asset protection trust where they are just going ahead and giving that right to the beneficiaries and waiving their claims to it. So they can't sell it. They can't collect the money, but they're in their forever home. They don't plan on selling it. If they later need this care, and we don't know, but we have to plan ahead, right? If they later need this care, if it's been 5 years since that was placed in that trust, you can have that asset and Medicaid coverage will cover that bed. Why does that matter? This stuff can be $10,000 or $15,000 a month. Will eat up your family financially if you have to self-pay or spend down everything to be able to have them have the care they need. So it's really important, even if you never need it, it's better to have it in place and not need it than to just be scrambling and trying to commit fraud, in order to be able to get them the care they need.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I feel empowered. I just have more knowledge and I feel like, okay, I feel I want to do it because I don't want my stuff all over the place. And I don't want people with my thing that ain't got no business with my thing.
Because you have to hunt those people. And who feels like hunting people? You want to go on where you're going and enjoy.
I just want to lay down and rest. I don't want to come and haunt you. I don't want to do that, but I will. So folks know I will. Yes. Where can my listeners find you?
www.trustmeseries.com. And that's where the first 2 books that I've written are there. And if you go all the way to the bottom, you can click on a link to get a free 30-minute consultation with me where I'll talk to you one-on-one about this stuff. And we'll figure out what your plan needs to be. So that's trustmeseries.com. I'm on Instagram as attorney Dorna Taylor. That's Dorna. I'm on Facebook as Dorna Jenkins Taylor. And on Facebook, I have a group called A Seat at the Table where I sit down like this every so often and just answer legal questions for free. I'm really about trying to get this information to our community. I'm really serious about us feeling like we have a lawyer in the family that we know we can at least ask these things. And, you know, whether I do the work or someone else, I just don't want us to feel like we don't have any options, or to go sit down with that old guy who's going to say, oh, you don't have enough, and send us off and, you know, just disregard us or overlook our communities. I'm happy to talk to anybody anytime.
Thank you so much. And I'll make sure that I tag you on Instagram, wherever people are listening to this. Look in the captions. I'll make sure that you're tagged and your website is available so people can easily find you. The one thing I forgot to ask her is how much all this costs. That's an important thing. She has a flat fee for both wills and trusts. Wills are $997, and a trust for an individual is $3,500. Also, she accepts Affirm for payment plans. Last but not least, I don't want to leave this episode on a sour note, 'cause I know so many things that we spoke about have been very heavy. This one is also not as heavy, but it's something that's been sitting on my heart. I've been following this story of Tomi Adeyemi, the creator of Children of Blood and Bone, the author, and then her book was adapted to be turned into a film, and she's very publicly distanced herself twice from the film. She released a new video, very cryptic. She was very emotional. She says her experience working on the adaptation of her book, I'm reading this on Variety, although I did watch the video. She says, quote, "It's the worst thing I have ever had to live through. I never want to hear about this project again." We heard you the first time. I mean, I guess people are still asking her about it, so she's, doubling down. But I was like, sis, like, just block these mofos, because that's what I do. The general consensus is like, girl, get a therapist and a publicist. Stop telling us all your business. You about to sink this movie and also bomb black cinema along with it. Like, Hollywood is making the kinds of movies that we want to see. Other people who are interested in this genre, if this movie flops, are going to have a harder time getting their movies made because of you and this bullshit. Like, please shut up and take one for the team, for the people that have to come after you. And also the people that worked on this film. Tons of people put forth a lot of work to get this film made, and you out here tanking it is fucking up everybody's bag. Girl, they're right. All of these things that are being said, like, basically you're ruining everything. All of these are strong possibilities. I have a lot of empathy for her as a writer, as a creative. It's very hard to see people in your mind destroy your vision. She's in deep pain. Whatever it's about, eventually that'll come to light. Either Variety or Hollywood Reporter are working diligently to get to the bottom of the story. It really sucks to, do something good and big, like write a book, and then you get this huge opportunity, like, oh my God, you want to turn it into a film? Like, you got the best of the UK people, the best of the Americans, the best of the Africans, like that, whoa, like that's, and then, such and such actor is interested. Like, people you've grown up watching on TV whose work you admired, now they want to play some character that you wrote, something you invented in your head while you were sitting around in dirty sweatpants, typing away at your laptop. That thing that you created out of your head now becomes like this huge, mega global thing with A-list talent, with a top tier studio. Like, it's a really, really, really big deal. And then it all falls apart. I've had experiences where I thought this was like, a really great thing. This is going to be like the thing that takes me to the place that I want to go. Like, this is it. And then, turns out to be, in my estimation, a goddamn shit show. That shit hurts. And I hope she has a good support system, because the press for this movie is going to ramp up in the next couple months. It's going to be everywhere. It's going to be unavoidable for her. She also has the sequel to her book coming out at the same time. She's going to have to promote it. She's going to have to do press. And even though she's very publicly said, "Don't ask me about that film," every single interviewer is going to ask her about that film. It's clearly triggering for her. I hope that she's able to manage it. I do wish she could keep it behind the scenes. If you're not willing to tell us what happened, don't give us no more videos. Let's have these conversations with the therapist instead of the general public. Like, we can't do nothing to help you if you're not going to tell us, like, what the problem is. Actually, you could probably tell us and we still couldn't do anything. But whew, that wasn't an easy conversation today. But sometimes The conversations we least want to have are the ones that matter the most. This week, this episode, the things that we covered, has reminded me that there's only a few things we leave behind when we go. The people we loved, the way we made them feel, the practical things that we do to protect them. And for those of us that create the work that we make, that we hope would outlive us, or the work that we create that thought would define us when it doesn't go as planned. Take care of your folks. Tell them you love them. Get your affairs in order. And if you're lucky enough to build something, it's a beautiful thing to do. Make sure you protect that too. All right, that's the episode for this week. Thank you, as always, for listening. Before we go, I must let you know that registration for our Zanzibar trip is coming to a close. I'm going to shut the reservations down on Monday. So if you were interested in joining us, head to my website, demetriallucas.com. You can click on where it says See Some World 2027, and all the information about Zanzibar, as well as the rest of our 2027 See Some World trips, is available. I think we have 2 slots left for Zanzibar. I would love to gallivant around Stone Town, take in the historic sites with you, and also for the second part of our vacation, head to the beach and frolic in Zanzibar's perfect Indian Ocean. Hopefully, I will see you there. If I don't see you in Zanzibar, then maybe I'll catch you in Cape Town in February or Marrakesh in March. I hope to see you in Africa. All right, we'll talk on Tuesday. Have a great weekend. Bye.